Was it okay, there's 37 combat outposts that we need to establish to what we think will take over Ramadi? Is that kind of how it went? And then you just ticked them off a list, or was it?
No, again, this was not me planning. This is the brigade as a team planning.
Yeah.
But it's honestly, it's cover and move. So if you set up a combat outpost, what supporting distance can I give you? How can we cover this whole road? Well, if I put a Bradley on one end and you put a Bradley on the other end, we could, and we're 1,000 yards apart. Cool. Maybe 1,500 yards. We want to make sure that we're not going to shoot each other. But what does it take to cover this area?
Okay.
And so when you start and what was interesting is about the size of your hand. On a certain size battle map, if you put your hand on the battle map, you would touch Americans.
Yeah.
So it ended up being they ended up all being between 500 and 1,000, maybe between 500 and 1,500 meters apart. But really it was more like 500 to 1,000 meters apart. You would get to another combat outpost, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Because it really made you feel like worst case scenario, I can get back to this freaking combat outpost.
Yeah. And that was a 6-month deployment?
Yep.
In that 6 months, do you recall about how many combat outposts you guys were able to install across the city?
Yeah, again, it's and there's a little bit of semantics on what you'd call a combat outpost, but it ended up being like 10.
Yeah. How close, to put a percentage on all of the work that you guys collectively did in that 6 months to when Ramadi was completely taken back, what percentage do you think you guys collectively accomplished just while you guys were there?
So we left in October 21st is when I left of 2006. And they put another combat outpost up at Firecracker. But the big muscle movement had taken place. I think they might have done a couple more, but this is a very solemn time because the 1-1 AD got extended. So they were supposed to go home. I forget when they were supposed to go home, but they were supposed to go home, and they ended up getting extended like 3 months. And in that last 3 months, you're losing guys every day. So there was probably another 30 guys that were killed in the time that they were extended.
Yeah.
So the fighting, I don't know what percentage, but they lost probably in fact, I know they lost, I think 61 guys while we were there, and they lost another 30 to 35 after we left. Wow. So there was still, I guess if you wanted to break that down percentage, they probably had about another 30% of the fighting left. And it was very hard months. They had some very devastating days. Some of the worst days, one of their worst days for casualties took place after we left.
Yeah. But by the end of that 3 months, once you guys had left, at that point, though, Ramadi had, for the most part, been kind of taken back.
After when?
Like the 30 days after you guys left, was that for the most part?
No. They still fought hard until January, February. Correct. I apologize if I'm wrong, but we left in October, November, December, very hard fighting. January, it started to slow down. And then in by February, things were dramatically different.
Yeah. It was a tough several months or a tough, I'd say 9 months, that entire, process. You guys lost a few guys. I'll never forget Mikey Monsoor. I was an instructor when that happened, and he was also the first student that I had, put through training that had been killed in action. And it was remarkable, the difference between losing fellow teammates. Not that he wasn't a fellow teammate. I never worked with him, but there was this weird almost, and I don't want to overstep, but almost like this paternal feeling of being an instructor and seeing one of your students now go over and lose his life. It just hit me very different. It almost, I can feel emotions stirring just talking about it. But, going to that funeral and seeing so many of your guys there and just kind of the gravity of experiencing that was hard to put into words for me. Again, not having been there, not having worked with them, but just something about, putting them through training and seeing that it just felt different. It started with, I think Mark Lee was the first. There were a few different, losses on our end. Can you kind of just speak to that of what it's like being in a leadership role where, you're making calls and obviously we're all grown men. We all make our own decisions, but kind of how that made you feel, how you dealt with it, how you rationalize it, how you move forward, how you communicate to the guys when stuff like that happens. It's got to be just an impossibly tough spot to be in.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the 1-1 AD lost about 60 guys while we were there. Just while we were there, they ended up losing, I think, 94 total, including my guys. The 228 lost around the same number. I think their number was 97 or something like that. And so the reason I'm telling you this is because that means that there's wounded and killed every day. At least someone wounded, and oftentimes someone killed. So when you are participating in those activities as the leader, I know that the time will come. You can do everything right. You can do everything right. You can do everything perfect, and you're still, a roadside bomb doesn't care. Random mortar falling from the sky doesn't care. Sniper, there was enemy snipers over there. They killed Corporal Chris Leon from a rooftop. We spent so much time on rooftops, it was ridiculous. I was on rooftops all the time, and at any of those times, and we all would hear snaps going over your head. Was that the one? So when you're living in that environment as the leader, you know that the time is going to come. And that was the worst. The worst is if I wasn't going out, the knot in your stomach. It's more better to be out there because then you're thinking about things and it feels better. But you just have the knot. And by the way, we'd almost, there was, most of the time I had guys in the field, whether it was a 6-man element, whether it was a 4-man element, whether it was a platoon doing a hit, whether it was, we were all out there. There was a lot of times where guys in the field. So, when you're going to memorial services on a very regular basis, that eventually your luck is going to run out. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, eventually you're going into enemy territory. There's enemy fighters everywhere. The enemy fighters are determined. They have no rules of engagement. And they eventually, So Mark got killed. He was the first SEAL killed in Iraq. He was a fucking stud. Just an incredible, gregarious, funny, positive, faithful, charismatic dude. And that's, when he got killed, obviously it hurt and destroyed the feeling of invincibility for us, but also talking to the Army guys then and after, it hurt everybody because we were able to accomplish a lot. And it's interesting. Here's a different perspective. When you're on the battlefield and significant acts, SIG acts, are being reported, everybody hears them. So when NSWTU ran, which is us, or when Red Bull, which is our call sign, when Red Bull 16 reports something, it gets sent out like back to the brigade. So there's a bunch of people that are listening to that. And so when you kill one enemy fighter crossing Route Sunset at 200 meters, fired one round, resulting in one enemy fighter killed, RPG disabled. So everyone hears that. I mean, not immediately, but eventually, the platoon commander from some army unit goes, "Hey, dude, the SEALs just whacked another guy. Hey, the SEALs just killed a guy. Hey, the SEALs just killed a guy putting in a mortar. Hey, the SEAls just killed a guy that put an IED in the road." So everyone, and by the way, we're hearing the same thing. It's like we hear that when stuff happens, when they do that as well. So everyone's it's this kind of unifying thing that everyone's kind of getting the word. And again, I don't want to make it sound like everyone's hearing it over one radio call, but if you're my platoon chief and the army hits an IED, 2 blocks over, and there's a big boom, and they say, "Hey, whatever, Alpha Platoon just hit an IED." You come and say, "Hey guys, hey boys, Army just hit an IED over on Route Sunset." See what I'm saying? So there's like a common knowledge. This idea that we're out there like operating alone is just, it wasn't true in Ramadi at all. Yeah. We were all operating with a common, in many cases on a common net. So when for months, what the Army and the Marine Corps hears is like, SEAL killed another guy, SEALs killed another guy, SEALs killed another guy, SEALs killed another guy, SEALs killed another guy. They're stoked, especially when it's like, oh, they lose a guy to an IED and then SEALs killed an IED in placer. Or they lose a guy to a mortar, SEALs killed a mortar guy. And that's literally what would happen. So when Mark got killed, it's like, oh, the SEALs are not invincible. And we learned that, and everybody learned that. And so, interestingly, of course, in the SEAL teams, we have like a protocol, an administrative protocol of what you're going to do. If you lose somebody, here's the procedures that you follow. And you start following those procedures, but those procedures are just administrative. Interestingly, we didn't even have, like you talk about World War II, you hear about replacements. It's a thing. There was no replacements. I bet when you were in, you never talked about platoon replacements for when we take casualties. Never talked about that. It wasn't a thing. And so what are we doing? That's one part of it. And then the other part is like what you mentioned, how many classes I got or how many of my senior leadership talked to me about what you do when you lose a guy in combat? No one. You know why? None of those guys had lost a guy in combat. Thank God. So it was a lot of figuring out what to do. A lot of it, I will quite frankly stole from Colonel David Hackworth. I read about FACE for probably had been reading it for about 5 straight years over and over again at this time. So what do you do when someone gets killed? All right, here's what we're going to do. And what we did was stood down for a couple of days, sent him on his last flight home, did the memorial service, celebration of life, and then get the gear back on and go out and take the fight to the enemy. Then that's what we did. And the war doesn't stop. The enemy doesn't stop. The attacks aren't going to stop. There's still Marines and soldiers that are going to go out. They're still on the streets right now. And we got to get back out there.
It's a powerful thought process, or that's powerful just thinking about experiencing that and having to communicate those things to those guys. How was the reception from your guys when communicating that? Were any of them harder than others to kind of get back in the game? Did any of them want to seek retribution, kind of almost to a point where it was counterproductive, where it's like you're seeing red and the vengeance component is clouding your vision? Like, was there any of that, or did you have any struggles or issues, I guess, or was everybody pretty unified and getting their shit back on, being stoic and getting back out and getting after it?
Yeah, look, do people want to get retribution? Of course. The fact of the matter is, the best way to get retribution is get your gear back on and go do it. And that's what we did. That's what war is. I mean, it's, you fight and the enemy is going to come, and they're not going to stop coming. And so, and they did. They didn't stop coming. And so, like I said, we're going to go back out. The what you have to do, like the rules of engagement, like that's what they are. And you can't not follow the rules of engagement. You have to do the right thing. In Ramadi, it was like, if you didn't follow the rules of engagement, you would be arrested immediately. Like I said, there's Iraqis in your unit with you. There's Iraqi civilians that you're out meeting with. There's tribal sheikhs that are meeting with the battalion commanders. There's tribal sheikhs meeting with the brigade commanders. There's Iraqi police. You have to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, you're doomed. I mean, that's just a non-starter.
Yeah. But did it change your guys' tactics at all? Like, did you pivot anything of what you were doing, or was it just fucking bad luck? And
we were always doing things a little bit different. And you take a risk somewhere, it opens up more risk somewhere else. Get rid of that risk, you open risk somewhere else. So being on rooftops, like I mentioned, like being on a rooftop, you have really good angles. You can see a lot. They can also see you. They can throw grenades on roofs. But you can cover a lot more ground, a lot more there's a lot less dead space.
Yeah.
So we're making those adjustments. Sometimes we'd insert in the day. Sometimes we'd insert at night. Sometimes we'd insert out of vehicles. Sometimes we'd foot patrol. Sometimes we'd use both. So all the lessons that we learned, that we were supposed to learn from our Vietnam forefathers, we did our best to continue to carry on those lessons learned and insert at different times, different buildings, different places, different numbers, sometimes use a loophole, sometimes use a window, sometimes use a mirror. We did everything.
Yeah.
And we changed it all the time.
Yeah.
So did we change tactics? Yeah. Did we make any very specific changes after that operation? Not really.
Yeah.
Because we were changing all the time.
Yeah. So that, whether it was day or night or helo or foot patrol, all that was very intentionally mixed up as much as you could.
Other than helo.
Yeah.
Because we didn't use helos.
Oh, I got you.
There was we never used a helo.
Yeah. I'm assuming it would have been Mogadishu 2.0 on fucking steroids had you done that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I've never done an operation from a helicopter.
Really?
Yeah.
That is odd.
Yeah.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Probably not, but Chris Kyle, obviously a legend in his own right. Did you have any concept while it was taking place that that deployment for him would have turned into what it did, like the magnitude of it subsequently?
Not really. No, not. Of course. I mean, what are the chances that a book gets written and a movie gets made and all that stuff? The chances of that happening, I would never have predicted that in a million years. But for him to be doing what he's doing was very easy to predict.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, so now go back to the bait, and now you have the guy that's the lead sniper that's going to pick the position that he's going to sit in. So, there's 4 loopholes. One of them's got a view of the building next door, and you're basically looking to make sure no one walks up there with a grenade through a mirror, right? One of them can see, some back alley, and then one of them is staring down 1,000 meters with two big intersections on it.
Yeah.
Which one is Chris Kyle going to go to?
Yeah.
He's going to go in that one.
Yeah.
And the other thing about Chris is he's going to sit on that gun, and he's going to sit on that gun for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. And that's an incredible amount of patience.
Yeah.
It's an incredible amount of patience.
Yeah.
And he had it.
Yeah. I guess that, during that deployment, did you start to realize how successful he was becoming at a certain point where like, holy shit, like this is an unheard of amount of confirmed sniper kills that he's, amassing during one deployment. Did that ever really enter your mind? Or?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely clocking it, but also, you go out, the sniper Overwatch position goes out, they are reporting back over a 24-hour period, 1 kill. 6 hours later, another kill. 3 hours later, another kill. An hour later, 1 more kill. Then they extract. So that's 4 kills.
Yeah. They
come back. You're not really even, and it's like, oh, we got to do sworn shooter statements. Cool. 3 of them are Chris.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're not sitting there thinking about it to that level, but you also know like the same thing. Like JP Donnell was on the other side of Ramadi, and JP is the lead sniper. When you set up the long axis looking down Farouk Way, and there's 3 intersections that are going to be covered from one loophole, who's going to be sitting there?
Yeah.
JP Donnell.
Yeah. And
JP Donnell killed a lot. I forget his number, but that was, it's the same as if you were a 3-point shooter in a basketball game. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if you were the guy that had the awesome shot and we're going to feed you the ball so you can rack up the score.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to put you in the spot to win.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, it didn't strike me as this anomaly at the time. It was just, and by the way, a bunch of other snipers killed a bunch of other guys too. And so did machine gunners.
Yeah.
So, it was all kind of, I guess a good comparison would be basketball.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Jordan scored 33. Pippen scored 18.
Yeah. And,
whoever else, Rodman scored 4.
Yeah.
And there were some freaking A-dubs,
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Speaking of JP, I want to go off on a quick tangent. Has he ever given you a run for your money grappling?
Dude, I've been training a lot longer than JP.
Yeah.
And JP, first of all, that dude is like
he's a fucking gorilla.
He's a gorilla. Yeah. He's super strong. But I've been training for a long time.
Yeah.
I've been training for
the short answer is no.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to have JP sneak up and freaking put a rear naked choke on you? No, you're going to die. Like he's a killer.
No, thanks. Yeah.
He's a beast.
Yeah. I mean, I love him. He lives in Dallas too, and we don't hang out as much as I would like to. But such a good dude.
If JP, because this is one of the biggest regrets of JP's life, is I don't like to impose things on my guys. In fact, I don't. But I do impose things when I was in the Navy. I would impose things on my officers.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I impose on my officers is you will train with jiu-jitsu with me at 5:00 in the morning. And so sometimes the E-dogs, they were always invited, but I didn't impose it on them. And JP is like, I cannot believe I didn't train with you guys. Yeah. And he just, he didn't start training until later.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer because JP is one insanely athletic dude.
Yeah.
And, he ended up fighting MMA and, he would win just out of being JP. Yeah. And he's got actually, he grew up striking. He grew up doing Taekwondo, I think. And he's a very good striker.
Yeah.
And so he was, but yeah, he's bummed out that he didn't train as much. He didn't start training seriously until later.
Yeah, I can imagine. As that deployment wrapped up, at the very end is when, Mike Monsoor lost his life, and that was in the last few days of the deployment, or last week or two.
Yeah, so it was September 29th, and as I mentioned, I went home October 21st. So if you do the math, we're doing turnover ops. It was definitely close to the end, and Was that his last op? Could have been, might have been, might not have been. But yes, it was very close to the end.
Yeah. Can you give us the recollection from your perspective of when that happened?
Yeah, again, this is it was kind of another day in Ramadi. Had a couple Overwatch positions out in South Central Ramadi. This was Seth Stone's guys, and they set up a couple mutually supporting Overwatch positions, and in an area, supporting the first of the 506 on the ground. Kentucky Jumper was the name of the operation, I believe. Operation Kentucky Jumper. And again, there's advantages to being rooftop and there's disadvantages to being rooftop. We did both. And people had thrown grenades on rooftops before. People had shot through loopholes before. Like it's very difficult to predict what the enemy's going to do. So the way they had that sniper Overwatch position set up, there was some dead space, and a guy threw a grenade on the rooftop, and Mikey Monsoor was on like a little outcropping of the rooftop. He could have dove away from it, and he probably was the only guy that could have dove away from it and not been impacted. But if he would have done that, he would have left his other guys to bear the brunt, and so instead he jumped on that grenade.